Party Dominia, Ominira, indeed Abi, Ewo Nairawa, Lupolukuru Mushu, the way Taga, Nonjayan one issue, Abeori, Eweri, Shumboe, Ferry, Abeori, Agbaeri, Atenuje, no Fepai, Pete, Tanoni, Popa, and Libata Bacolomo, Femi. Shepele masu, yeba sope o mo kankan, ẹ̀yin arole ma wa. Shepele ma ṣẹlẹ̀ o, shepele masu.
The Baldwin in his famous quote on change posited that change is inevitable. Change will always occur, but the application or directive of change determines its progress. It is on this note that I welcome you to the most informative, educative, and your analytical program, Pinpoint, from the stable of your favorite radio frequency, iPower 102.7 FM, Imrele Owo. Pinpoint is a program that updates you on events and happenings reshaping the Nigerian system and polity. This is a program that informs you with detailed analysis of events that cut across politics, security, economy, education, and an in-depth view of government policies with related trending issues in the Nigerian system. The program Pinpoint has a feedback segment where listeners are expected to call in to hear the views, opinions, and contribution to any topical issue discussed. It is on this note that I welcome you on board on the program Pinpoint. My name is Akin Adebayo, your radio host for the program today and always. We want to go on a short break. We'll be back in a minute. Please stay tuned. Don't change the dial.
Kini sùúrù tí ò lérè, kini iṣẹ́ tí kò ṣeré, wọ́n ṣàlẹ́yọ̀ tí ò.
Welcome back. It's your program Pinpoint. We are transmitting from your darling station iPower 102.7 FM. You can reach us on our social media handle, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and our X handle on iPower 1027 FM, or our studio line 081 65 52 4699. I'll take that again, 081 65 52 4699, or the second line 081 32 74 7339, 081 32 74 7339.
wọ́n á ṣẹ̀nu mẹ́rẹ́ kàlùkàlù gbé nǹkan mi ṣẹ̀nu wúyẹ́ làbí tún ti wọlé.
Today, we shall be discussing or analyzing Donald Trump, that is the American president. We all know what it means to be a POTUS, that is the president of the United States. Its political ideology, its policy front, its belief about sovereignty and integrity of any sovereign state. All this will be bringing into consideration. Its recent invasion of Venezuela, its threat to Colombia, and of course we have a brief stint into the Nigerian issue as well. As we all know, Trump has been wanting to achieve 1 or 2 Nobel Prizes, particularly for peace. But all this while, he has not been able to achieve it. He has intervened into so many political unrest. Probably the one between Russia and Ukraine, the one between Israel, Gaza Strip, and Palestine. He has equally intervened on so many issues, like the one in Nigeria as well, advocating against the Christian genocide. In quote, I will say this time around, because some people are of the belief that Trump is having an ulterior motive in the invasion. And of course, recently, which people are now beginning to see a different view to, is the arrest of a president of a sovereign state and being paraded on the street of the New York and being tried in the United States on the ground of narcotism being imported into America. But unfortunately, the story is taking a different twist. It's taking a different narrative. And that is the recent agreement it had just entered into of 30 to 50 million exploration of Venezuelan oil to be sold by the American government and to now be used or to be shared between America and the Venezuelans. I begin to ask myself, how possible is that? How can you invade someone else's country? You exploit their oil, you really want to sell it, you don't equally share the proceed. If I'm not mistaken, that's the Latin maxim that says Nemo Judas in casa sua. This simply means you can't be a judge in your own case. These are issues that is giving the world as a whole a serious concern. And this action of his has attracted all manners of criticism from the UN, the United Nations, and equally even the United States allies. They have criticized the action taken against Venezuela by Donald Trump. But of course, to have a better understanding of why is an American president behaving in this manner, I think we need to consider the personality of the person that is now the POTUS, that is the president of the United States of America. We have to consider his personality, his background, what is he into, what has he been doing before. All this we must put into consideration, and I think that will help us a long way in understanding why Donald Trump is behaving in this manner on his policy front and his political ideology. Thanks for joining us once more again. It's your program Pinpoint, and I can assure you it's going to be a swell time.
Kí ni sùúrù tí ò lérè? Kí ni iṣẹ́ tí kò ṣeré? Wọ́n ṣàléyọ̀ tí ò lórúkọ. Ó kúkú ṣiṣẹ́ ó dẹ̀ rere. Ha ẹ̀dẹ̀ sí.
Donald Trump, born in 1946, is a businessman turned politician, known for his real estate empire and reality TV fame, that is The Apprentice, and the polarizing style. He served as the 45th U.S. president in the year 2017 to 2021 and was re-elected in 2024, becoming the 47th president of the United States. That is, was 45 and at the same time 47th president of the U.S. Characterized by direct communication, nationalism, and deal-making. Understand, deal-making. Trump emphasizes American first policy, often clashing with traditional diplomacy. His approach blends populism with authoritarian tendencies, as seen in his handling of international affairs. Now we need to deal with the sensitivity of the United States president, that is the POTUS. The president of the United States is a highly sensitive role, embodying executive power over military, foreign policy, and domestic affairs. It requires balancing national interest with international law, congressional oversight, and ethical consideration. Actions like military intervention demands justification under the Constitution and can impact global stability. Trump leverages and uses all of this office for unilateral decisions, such as the Venezuela operation, highlight tension between presidential authorities and the check-like Congress of the international norms. Trump foreign policy promotes peace through strength, emphasizing military dominance, economic leverage, and spheres of influence over multilateralism. It prioritizes U.S. interests, withdrawing from agreements like the Paris Accord and pressuring allies, e.g. NATO spending. On global peace, it involves aggressive deterrence against other adversaries, e.g. China and Russia, but risks escalating as a Latin American where actions are framed as combating threats like drug trafficking to foster stability through U.S. control.
Kí ni sùúrù tí ò lérè? Kí ni iṣẹ́ tí kò ṣeré? Wọ́n ṣàlẹ́yọ̀ tí ò lórúkọ. Ó kúkú ṣiṣẹ́ ó dẹ̀rẹ̀.
Donald Trump's political ideology is best described as right-wing populism, often termed Trumpism or MAGA, that is Make America Great Again. That is his political ideology, MAGA, Make America Great Again. It combines economic protectionism, strict immigration controls, skepticism towards multilateral institutions, and a transactional American-first approach to foreign policy. Trump positioned himself as an outsider fighting against elites, globalists, and establishment politicians on behalf of ordinary Americans, emphasizing national sovereignty, cultural traditionalism, and pragmatic deal-making over rigid ideological conservatism. Critics view it as an authoritarian leaning, popularism with elements of nativism, while supporters see it as pragmatic nationalism prioritizing the United States interests. Trump's views have evolved. Earlier in his career, he held more moderate or centrist position on some social issues, but his presidency shifted the Republican Party towards its popular framework. At the heart of Trump ideology is American First, which prioritizes U.S. economy and security interests over global commitments. This includes the protection trade policy, that is tariffs to protect American jobs, reduced involvement in international agreements unless they directly benefit the U.S., strong military but avoidance of endless war or national building, assertive unilateral action to counter threats like immigration, drug trafficking, and economic rivals, for example, the Chinese economic rival engaged in and that of Canada. In practice, it has involved withdrawing from agreements like the Paris Climate Accord and emphasizing hemispheric dominance in the Western Hemisphere. Trump advocates tax cuts, deregulation, and energy independence to boost growth. He implemented major corporate tax reduction in his first term and favors tariff on imports, especially from China. To address trade deficit and revive manufacturing, in the second term, policies focus on unleashing domestic energy production and using trade leverage aggressively. A signature issue, Trump pushes for strict enforcement, including border wall construction, mass deportation, ending catch and release, and ideological screening for entrants. He has reinstated policies like remain in Mexico and designated certain groups, e.g. the cartels, as terrorists to facilitate removal. On foreign policy, transactional and unilateral peace through strength via military build-up and deterrence, while pressuring allies, e.g. NATO spending and adversaries. Achievement through the Abraham Accord, withdrawal from deals like the Iran nuclear agreement. In second-term hemisphere, on Western Hemisphere, security, anti-narcotic operation, and reduce global entanglement. To work up policies ending diversity, equity, and inclusion. Initiative in government protecting biological reality in gender policies, cutting funding for programs, promoting critical race theory or gender ideology in education, strong support for law enforcement and Second Amendment rights, on healthcare and entitlement. General opposes major overhaul like Obamacare, repeals without replacement. He repealed Obamacare without replacement. Focuses on lowering drug prices and protecting existing programs for seniors, though with reforms to prevent abuse. It prioritizes combating domestic crime, terrorism, and foreign threat, supporting expanding presidential powers in emergency and rebuilding the military. Trump approaches as president has been characterized by extensive use of executive orders, over 200 in the first year of his second term. He has executed executive orders over 200 in his second term alone. Direct communication with the public and a focus on rapid implementation of campaign promises. His ideology has reshaped the Republican Party, blending traditional conservative with populist nationalism, yielding both policy achievements and other trade wars and international withdrawals.
Kini sùúrù tí ò lérè? Kini iṣẹ́ tí kò ṣeré? Wọ́n ṣàléyàn tí ò lórúkọ. Ó kúkú ṣiṣẹ́ ó dẹ̀ rere. Ha ẹ̀dẹ̀ sí.
máa sùn yẹ bá sọ pé ò mọ kankan ẹ̀yìn àròlẹ̀ máa wà ṣé bẹ́lẹ̀ máa wà ń ṣẹlẹ̀ o ṣé bẹ́lẹ̀ máa sùn ṣé ní òṣè kan wà kan o ẹ̀yìn àròlẹ̀ máa wà ń ṣẹlẹ̀ o.
Kí ni sùúrù tí ò lérè? Kí ni iṣẹ́ tí kò ṣeré? Wọ́n ṣàléyàn tí ò lórúkọ. Ó kúkú ṣiṣẹ́ ó dẹ̀ rẹ̀.
To get us on the program on our social media handle, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and our X handle, iPower 1027 FM. iPower 1027 FM. And you can equally contact us or join us to hear your opinion, ideas, and contribution on 081 65 52 4699. 081 65 52 4699, or the second studio line number 081 32 74 7339. I call that again 081 32 74 7339.
Ha ẹ̀dẹ̀ sí.
máa sùn yẹ bá sọ pé ò mọ kankan ẹ̀yìn àròlẹ̀ máa wà ṣé bẹ́lẹ̀ máa wà ń ṣẹlẹ̀ o ṣé bẹ́lẹ̀ máa sùn ṣé ní òṣè kan wà kan o ẹ̀yìn àròlẹ̀ máa wà ń ṣẹlẹ̀ o.
Kí ni sùúrù tí ò lérè? Kí ni iṣẹ́ tí kò ṣeré? Wọ́n ṣàléyàn tí ò lórúkọ. Ó kúkú ṣiṣẹ́ ó dẹ̀ rere. Ha ẹ̀dẹ̀ sí.
máa sùn yẹ bá sọ pé ò mọ kankan ẹ̀yìn àròlẹ̀ máa wà ṣé bẹ́lẹ̀ máa wà ń ṣẹlẹ̀ o ṣé bẹ́lẹ̀ máa sùn ṣé ní òṣè kan wà kan o ẹ̀yìn àròlẹ̀ máa wà ń ṣẹlẹ̀ o.
Kí ni sùúrù tí ò lérè? Kí ni iṣẹ́ tí kò ṣeré? Wọ́n ṣàléyàn tí ò lórúkọ. Ó kúkú ṣiṣẹ́ ó dẹ̀ rere. Ha ẹ̀dẹ̀ sọ pé a ṣì wà lọ́mọdé. Nǹkan sálẹ̀ yẹn ń jẹ́ ká gbàdo tó dé. Láì sọ̀rọ̀ gidi lọ sọ, ọ̀rọ̀ tó ní láì ló sọ. aláti fi lákàyèsí ká sọ̀rọ̀ síbi tọ̀rọ̀ wá ṣé bẹ́lẹ̀ máa sùn o
ṣé bẹ́lẹ̀ máa sùn
èèyàn lẹ́nà wá
ṣé bẹ́lẹ̀ máa sùn
mẹ́wàá ń ṣẹlẹ̀ o ṣé bẹ́lẹ̀ máa sùn o ẹ bá wo ṣẹ́jú wa kan o èèyàn lẹ́nà wá o mẹ́wàá ń ṣẹlẹ̀ o.
ó dà sí gbogbo yẹn wọ́n wá sádùúgbò wọ́n aṣọ ọmọ jẹ́ẹ́jẹ́ ẹ̀jẹ̀ kan wọlé tán gbogbo ẹ̀jẹ̀ tán jẹ́ láwọ̀ kẹ́ṣẹ́ tó bá tún ṣe wẹ́rẹ́ lásìkò bò wọ́n ní kọ́dọ̀ tó lọ bẹ̀rẹ̀ wọ́n á ṣẹ̀nu mẹ́rẹ́ kàlùkàlù gbé nǹkan mi ṣẹ̀nu wúyẹ́ làbí tún ti wọlé ta ló dìbò fún pàṣọ tàbí iná yálé òǹbẹ lórí àjà.
Welcome back. It's still your radio program, Pinpoint, transmitted from iPower 1027 FM, Imrele, Owo, here in Ondo State. Like I have earlier said, we will be dwelling much today on the Trump issue. And of course, I've been trying to bring about the history or to analyze what Trump stands for, his political ideology, his policy front, and also his various intervention into other countries' affairs. And by so doing, it will make us to have a better understanding of what Trump is all about, his intentions in interfering in other people's matters, and how those countries have fared so far after he has actually intervened into their matters. Because as a matter of fact, every country has its own sovereignty. Every country has its own integrity to protect. But Trump has going about, should I say as Jesus Christ, or should I say as the Savior of the world? And the question now is this: can Trump, with a single time that is left for him, turn the whole world around for his own interests, or can he turn the whole world around for the purpose or for the way he views it? These are issues we are actually trying to deliberate upon. Now, Trump has intervened into so many countries' affairs, and below is one of the, we have been able to gather some of the countries that intervene into their matters, and we will be doing this combinedly. Now, Donald Trump during his first term and second term presidential term intervened in other people's internal or external affairs through military actions, economic sanctions, diplomatic pressure, and other means. These interventions were often justified under an American first framework, aiming to advance U.S. security, economic interests, e.g., oil access, trade balance, migration control, or counter-terrorism. This list focuses on the notable cases with clear U.S. involvement, based on documented actions as of January 7, 2026. For each, I'll outline the key interventions, their benefits and pursued, and the implication for the affected country. I'll be starting with Venezuela. Now, Venezuela, in the first term, Trump imposed sanctions, recognized opposition leader Juan Guaido as interim president in 2029, which means Trump has been the one that equally started this issue in Venezuela. It didn't just start this year. It has been on far back the year 2029. And he refused to rule out military action against Nicolas Maduro in the second term. U.S. forces conducted a raid on January 3, 2026, Operation Absolute Resolve, which means the work he couldn't complete in his first term, he has now come back in the second term to complete it, and that is why I said absolute resolve, capturing Maduro and his wife, leading to U.S. temporary control and their oil transfers. Now, U.S. is the one now controlling the affairs of Venezuela. Is controlling both the political and also the economy, because he was able to now remove the Maduro, which he presumed to be an enemy, and now fix his vice there. And that one has equally said that she is ready to abide with anything that U.S. so desire, but that his country is still an independent country. How can you say that your country is an independent country when another president is dictating to you what is obtainable in your own country, when your sovereignty has been handed over to another foreign agent, when the integrity of your country is being taken over by another country's president, and you are still laying claim that despite the fact that your boss was removed and you now become the president, that you are still in charge? I mean, these are issues, these are questions begging for answer. Now, U.S. benefited combated narcotic terrorism to reduce drug flows, e.g. fentanyl, stemmed migration, and secured access to Venezuela's vast oil reserve. Now 30 to 50 million barrels transferred to U.S. control for sale and infrastructural investment. I begin to, these are amazing things. When you want to start transferring the economic of the economic base of a particular country, about 30 to 50 million barrels of oil, it will not be transferred, or should I say, will not be transferred and transacted based on the American president dictation. Presumption, so to speak, which simply means now that it now controls both the military, it controls the economy, it controls the governance in Venezuela. And we now went ahead to now share the money or the proceed of the oil sales between America and Venezuela. Now, the implication of this is very simple. It brings about regime destabilization with Maduro's removal and acting President Delcy Rodriguez conciliatory stance, potential economic recovery via the U.S. investment, but the risk of prolonged instability, refugee crisis, and backlash as an imperialist. It alienated regional allies, boosted China-Russia influence by filling power vacuums, and set a precedent for hemispheric dominance under the Trump corollary to Monroe Doctrine. Now, as we all know, Venezuela is one of the vastly rich oil countries. Now that China and Russia are economically have influence. But with the recent move by Donald Trump, now he has succeeded in blocking the chances of China and Russia in the investment of Venezuelan oil. And I think America is now the only country that is controlling the oil of Venezuela. Of course, China and Russia equally would no doubt look for another place now to invest in their oil. So it will equally boost their own human relations internationally. Now, what about Syria? That was out in its first term. It included cruise missile strike in 2007 and 2020 against Assad regime for chemical weapon. It uses troop withdrawal in 2028 to 2029, reducing U.S. presence and allowing Turkish incursion. Its second term involved additional strike as part of 7 countries targeted in early 2025-2026. Now, that is the invasion of Syria. What does U.S. start to benefit from the invasion of Syria? Deterrence against chemical weapon, counter-terrorism, e.g. against ISIS, and avoidance of endless wars by withdrawing forces aligning with American force isolation. The implication: it weakened Kurdish allies, enabling Turkish invasion and displacement, strengthened Assad until the 2024 ouster by rebels, Russia and Iran in the region, contributed to ongoing civil war, chaos, and refugee flow. What about Afghanistan? He equally intervened in Afghanistan matter in its first term. You see, Trump is synonymous to, let me call him a busybody interloper, always intervening in other people's countries' affairs under the disguise of terrorism, under the disguise of narcotic transportation into America, when ordinarily should have closed your border in making sure that those doesn't pass through. You now leverage on that to now intervene or to invade other people's country. Now, Afghanistan, like I said, he intervened during his first term. He negotiated to lead the 2022 Doha Agreement with the Taliban for U.S. Troop withdrawal, it reduces hostility and setting a 14-month timeline. It was after he left Afghanistan that the Taliban came back again. What are we not talking about? What does U.S. stand to benefit from this? It ended prolonged military involvement, prevented terrorism safe haven via Taliban commitment, and free resources for other priorities. The implication: it paved way for the 2021 Taliban takeover under Biden, leading to government collapse, humanitarian crisis, human rights erosion, and regional instability. Question U.S. reliability among allies. What about in Iran? First-time drone strike, killing General Qasem Soleimani, that is 2020, withdrawn from the nuclear deal 2028, and maximum pressure sanction. Second-time strike and threatening to support protesters. That is U.S. for you. Now, U.S. has intervened in so many country matters. What does it benefit? U.S. benefits eliminates a key adversary, deterred Iran aggression, and pressure for better nuclear terms deal. U.S. is always forcing its own ideology, its own system of government on other countries. And when other countries should be allowed to have their own sovereign way of administration, but U.S. always want to impose their own ideology. Now, the implication is this: it heightened tension, proxy attack on U.S. interests, economic hardship in Iran, leading to protests. It advances Iran's nuclear program and alliance with Russia and China. It has been discovered that any country U.S. goes to intervene to their matter, they all do run to Russia and China for intervention. Now, Russia and China are gaining more momentum. Russia and China are becoming more relevant politically in the world. Globally, Russia and China is seen of a more economic viable country that you can partner with. All because the American government, particularly led by Donald Trump, couldn't manage the strength the American system is known for. I will go on a short break. When we're back, we will continue with the discussion. Please stay tuned. Don't change the dial.
Àṣepé kan kò sí o, àṣepamọ́ ló wà. Bẹ́ẹ̀ni, ṣe sílẹ̀. Èmi yóò ti kú, mo sì lè ṣiṣẹ́, mo sì lè fọwọ́ ẹ̀wọ́, mo sì lè túlẹ̀ mi ṣe yìí.
Ṣé bẹ́ẹ̀ lẹ́ máa sùn? Ṣé bá sọ pé ò mọ nǹkankan? Ẹ̀yin àrùn lẹ́ máa wá. Lẹ́wọ̀n wá ṣẹlẹ̀ o. Ṣé bẹ́ẹ̀ lẹ́ máa sùn? Ṣé ẹni kò ṣẹ́jú àkàn o? Ẹ̀yin àrùn lẹ́ máa wá. Ṣé bẹ́ẹ̀ lẹ́ máa ṣá? Lẹ́ máa sùn. Ọ̀ṣà ọ̀ṣẹ̀, ọmọ ńlá.
We continue with the intervention of U.S. in other countries' affairs, politically and economically. But U.S. has always leveraged on one thing: for terrorist attack, to combat terrorism, the war against terrorism, and at the end of the day, we discover that they tend to benefit economically. And recently, U.S. is now intervening in Nigeria's affair based on religion, that we want to bring an end to Christian genocide. How sincere this is, we are yet to know. But let me continue. In Iraq, U.S. equally intervened in the Iraqi issue in the early 2025 to 2026. Its first-time troop presence and counter-ISIS operation with rhetorics about seizing oil. It's all about oil, oil, and oil. And this same U.S. will tell you that they want to reduce their consumption of fossil oil, and they want to go on electric and stuff like that. But still, U.S. is still going after countries' oil. Now, for how long will they continue doing this? Now, what does it benefit? Counter-terrorism against ISIS remains remnant. Potential oil access. Potential oil target. What about in Yemen? In Yemen, intervention. Second term. U.S. equally intervened in the Yemen affair. In second time strike 2026, first time support for Saudi-led coalition against Houthis and via arms sales and logistics. U.S. benefited counter-Iranian influence, protected shipping lanes. Implication: worsening humanitarian crisis, famine displacement, strengthening Houthi resilience and regional proxy wars. U.S. equally intervened in Somalia's affair. A second-term strike 2025 is escalated drone strike against Al-Shabaab. U.S. counterterrorism to prevent Al-Qaeda affiliates from threatening U.S. interests. Civilian casualties, prolonged conflict, limited long-term stability gains. Now we are in Nigeria as well. Donald Trump intervened in the affairs of Nigeria, likely targeting Boko Haram or ISIS affiliates. Indeed, he claimed that the Christian genocide in Nigeria premised on this. He intervened, and that was when he launched an attack in Sokoto, where he actually killed some terrorists. But the question now is this: after that, how far has he gone in stabilizing the system? Has it been okay? What has he achieved so far? The implication: a counter-terrorism in West Africa to curb global jihadists. Of course, its potential escalation of insurgents strained relationship if sense
ọjọ́ rẹ̀ bí àná nígbà yẹn things easy gẹ́gẹ́ bọ́n ṣe wí darúgbó tó mi lọ lòdùnú pátí gbòmìnira òmìnira ìdí dàbí ẹ̀wọ̀ náírà wá ìlú polúkúrú mùsù ewé tàgbà lọ́jọ́ yan wọn níṣu abẹ́ orí ewé rí ṣùgbọ́n ẹ ò fẹ́ rí abẹ́ orí àgbà ẹ̀rí àtẹnujẹ ló fẹ́ pa yín pẹ̀tẹ̀pẹ̀tẹ̀ taná ní ìpọ̀pá ẹni bá tàgbà kó lọ́mọ ọ̀fẹ́ ni ṣé bẹ́ẹ̀ lẹ́ máa sùn yẹ bá sọ pé ò máa fọkàn ẹ̀yìn àrò lẹ́ máa wà ṣé bẹ́ẹ̀ lẹ́ máa ṣẹlẹ̀ o ṣé bẹ́ẹ̀ lẹ́ máa sùn ṣé ní kò ṣẹ́nu àkàn o ẹ̀yìn àrò lẹ́ máa wà ẹ̀ wá ṣẹlẹ̀ o.
Kí ni sùúrù tí ò lérè? Kí ni iṣẹ́ tí kò ṣeré? Wọ́n ṣàlẹ́yìn ọ̀tí olórúkọ. Ó kúkú ṣiṣẹ́ òdèrè. Ẹ̀dẹ̀ sọ pé a ṣì wà lọ́mọdé. Nǹkan sálẹ̀ yẹn ń jẹ́ ká gbàdo tó dé. Láì sọ̀rọ̀ gidi lọ sọ, ọ̀rọ̀ tó ní láì ló sọ. Aláti fi lákàyèsí ká sọ̀rọ̀ síbi tọ́rọ̀ wá. Ṣé bẹ́ẹ̀ lẹ́ máa sùn o?
Ṣé bẹ́ẹ̀ lẹ́ máa sùn?
Èèyàn rẹ̀ máa wà.
Ṣé bẹ́ẹ̀ lẹ́ máa sùn?
Mẹ́wàá ń ṣẹlẹ̀ o. Ṣé bẹ́ẹ̀ lẹ́ máa sùn o? Ẹ bá wo ṣẹ́jú wa kan o. Èèyàn rẹ̀ máa wà o. Mẹ́wàá ń ṣẹlẹ̀ o.
Bódà tí kò bò yẹn wọ́n wá sádùúgbò wọ́n aṣọ ọmọ jẹ́ẹ́jẹ́ ẹ̀jẹ̀ kan wọlé tán gbogbo ẹ̀jẹ̀ tán jẹ́ láwọ̀ kẹ́ṣẹ́ tó bá tún ṣe wẹ́rẹ́ lásìkò bò wọ́n ní kọ́dọ̀ tó lọ bẹ̀rẹ̀ wọ́n á ṣẹ̀nu mẹ́rẹ́ kàlùkàlù gbé nǹkan mi ṣẹ̀nu wúyẹ́ làbí tún ti wọlé ta ló dìbò fún pàṣọ tàbí iná yálé ọ̀nbẹ lórí àjà fún ọ̀dọ́ ẹ̀ lọ tún ra mú ẹ má jọ pàkọ́ ní funfun fún yín mo wí tèmi.
Àṣepé kan kò
wọ́n aṣọ ọmọ jẹ́ẹ́jẹ́.
To capture Nicolas Maduro on drug charges and threat against Colombia's leadership, framed as anti-narcotic terrorism efforts. The administration has also pushed for burden sharing with allies, pressuring Europe on NATO spending and redirecting U.S. military focus from the Middle East to the hemispheric security. Trump leadership emphasizes U.S. sovereignty and national interest above multilateral commitment, often positioning America as a defender against external threats like migration and transnational crime. Proponents argue this peace through strength approaches uphold the rule of law by enforcing U.S. border and international agreements on American stand, such as renegotiating trade deals to protect domestic integrity. However, critics contend its unilateral action, including executive orders bypassing Congress and intervention in Latin America, undermine other actions, sovereignty, even in the Venezuela operation, which violate the UN principle of non-interference without Security Council's approval, which means Trump just went about to invade Venezuela without passing through the normal UN Security, United Nations Security Council approval. The 2025 National Security Strategy prioritizes the Western Hemisphere, invoking historical doctrine to justify U.S. dominance, which some view as degrading international law and countries' territorial integrity in favor of the hemispheric control. Domestically, Effort to strengthen law enforcement and challenge perceived foreign influences via sanction and university transparency rules aim to safeguard U.S. rule of law by action like pardoning January 6 powers have raised concerns about consistency in upholding legal forms. Overall, Trump's style reflects a pragmatic, American-centric view that prioritizes national security over global consensus, yielding both achievements in deal-making and controversies over international respect.
àṣepé kan kò tó.
wọ́n aṣọmọ jẹ́ẹ́jẹ́ ẹ̀jẹ̀ kan wọlé tán gbogbo ẹ̀jẹ̀ tán jẹ́ láwọ̀ kẹ́ṣẹ́ tó bá tún ṣe wẹ́rẹ́ lásìkò bò wọ́n ní kọ́dọ̀ tó lọ bẹ̀rẹ̀ wọ́n á ṣẹ̀nu mẹ́rẹ́ kàlùkàlù gbé nǹkan mi ṣẹ̀nu wúyẹ́ làbí tún ti wọlé ta ló dìbò fún màṣán tàbí iná yálé òǹbẹ lórí àjà fún ọ̀dọ́ ẹ̀ lọ tún ra mú ẹ má jọ pàpọ̀ ní funfun fún yín mo wí tèmi.
àṣepé kan kò tó.
wọ́n aṣọmọ jẹ́ẹ́jẹ́ ẹ̀jẹ̀ kan wọlé tán gbogbo ẹ̀jẹ̀ tán jẹ́ láwọ̀ kẹ́ṣẹ́ tó bá tún ṣe wẹ́rẹ́ lásìkò bò wọ́n ní kọ́dọ̀ tó lọ bẹ̀rẹ̀ wọ́n á ṣẹ̀nu mẹ́rẹ́ kàlùkàlù gbé.
It's still your program Pinpoint on your favorite frequency, iPower 102.7 FM, Emrele, Owo, here in Ondo State. Like we've said, you can join us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and on our X handle, iPower 102.7 FM. Or you can join us via our studio station 081 65 52 4699 or 081 3274 7339. Following the U.S. military operation on January 3rd, we shall be dealing with the overview of the oil deal that I just run into. Not just the oil, and equally the security implication of new Donald Trump front policy on Venezuela. Now, following the U.S. military operation of January 3rd, which resulted in the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, President Donald Trump announced a deal involving the transfer of 30 to 50 million barrels of sanctioned Venezuela oil to the U.S. control. This oil, valued around $2 billion, will be refined and sold by the U.S., with proceeds ostensibly benefiting both nations but managed directly by Trump. And that's where the question arises. How can another country's president, in person of Donald Trump, be running the affairs security-wise, economic-wise of another country, Venezuela? Is it not authoritarian? Is it not a slap on the integrity of Venezuela? Is it not a slap on the sovereignty of Venezuela? I think the UN needs to act fast, because if this trend is not checked, I doubt it's going to lead to something that the world never bargained for. Now, let me continue. Now, this oil value at around $2 billion will be refined and sold by the U.S. with proceeds, benefiting both nations, but managed directly by Trump. Additionally, U.S. oil companies are slated to invest billions to repair Venezuela's dilapidated infrastructure, aiming to revive production from its current 1 million barrels per day. Amid the world's global largest reserve, the deal redirects supplies from China, Venezuela top buyers, and could involve partial sanction relief to facilitate operation. Now, what's the economic implication for Venezuela? The oil deal presents a mixed bag for Venezuela economy, which has shrunk dramatically under Maduro due to mismanagement, sanctions, and production decline from 3.2 million oil per liter in 2000 to 1 million BPD per day. Oil accounts for over 90% of export and a major share of fiscal revenue, making revival critical for for recovery and a humanitarian crisis that has driven millions to flee. Now, what is the positive impact of this invasion? Or should I say of the new oil deal? Investment and production boost. U.S. firm could inject $15 to $20 billion initially to restore half of peak production level, with estimate up to $100 billion for full revival. This could increase output, generate revenues, create jobs, potentially stabilizing the economy long term. Companies like Chevron, already present, and others such as ConocoPhillips and ExxonMobil own billions from past exploitations. Many recoup debt through separation. Also, the short-term inflow. The sale of 30 to 50 million barrels could provide immediate fund, though U.S. control raises question about equitable distribution. Of course, how can it be shared equitably? Nobody is accounting. If Donald Trump, the way it's going, is not going to be accountable to anybody. How can we now be so sure of the equitable distribution he is proposing on the sales of 30 to 50 million barrels of oil from the Venezuelan shores? Now, these global oil prices have dipped due to anticipated supply increases, potentially keeping energy costs low and aiding Venezuela export competitiveness. The negative implication: dependency and exploitation risk. Critics argue that the deal resembles resource extraction under U.S. dominance, with Trump stating revenue won't cost us anything, potentially prioritizing U.S. interests over Venezuelan sovereignty. Venezuela's heavy shore crude sale at a discount and rebuilding in a low-price environment may yield slim margin. China faces 17 to 19 billion in an unpaid loan tied to oil for loan deals, which could lead to diplomatic fallout or asset claim, indirectly bonding Venezuela. Venezuela is already owing China 17 to 19 billion unpaid loan, and have been bundled to the oil being generated from Venezuela. Won't this result to another cold war between economic cold war between America and China? Now, the short-term destruction is this: initial production or from intervention could exacerbate economic woes, including inflation and shortage. Political instability may deter investment, and sanction reversion are uncertain, delaying recovery overall. While long-term growth is possible, the deal risks entrenching foreign control with uneven benefits and a fragile transition under acting President Delcy Rodriguez, that is the stooge of Donald Trump. The deal broader intervention, framed as anti-narcotic terrorism, have profound security ramifications, blending national stability, regional dynamics, and international norms. Now, it's going to reduce narcotic threat by targeting Maduro and figures like the cartel in the sun. The U.S. aims to dismantle state-emboldened crime network, potentially curbing drug trafficking and improving domestic security if rule of law is restored. This could stabilize Venezuela by weakening armed groups and enabling election. U.S. backing for transition. Temporarily, U.S. running over fears with false position in the Caribbean might prevent immediate chaos and support interim governance under Rodriguez. Instability and violence risk. The operation risks unleashing unrest from pro-Maduro elements, including security forces, collective armed militia, and loyalists like Interior Minister Diosdado Cabello, who faced U.S. threat, civilian casualties from strikes, and potential powers vacuum could exacerbate humanitarian crisis, food insecurity, and migration.
Kàlùkàlù gbé nǹkan mi ìṣẹ̀nu yẹ́ làbí tún ti wọlé ta ló dìbò fún pàṣọ tàbí iná yálé òǹbẹ lórí àjà fún ọ̀dọ́ ẹ̀ lọ tún ra mú ẹ má jọ pàkọ́ ní funfun fún yín.
Also, what about the sovereignty and the regional tension this American invention will lead to? It is viewed by the UN Charter that violation it erodes Venezuelan integrity, invoking historical U.S. dominance and straining ties with neighbors like Colombia, threatened by Trump, and allies like Russia and China. This could embolden adversaries to fill voids, heightening geopolitical risk. U.S. military overhang. The ongoing U.S. presence as a security force for oil interests raises concerns of prolonged occupation, potentially fueling anti-U.S. sentiment and insurgents. Trump's corollary to the Monroe Doctrine signals broader hemispheric assertiveness, risking escalation. In summary, while the deal could foster economic revival and security through crime reduction, it risks deepening dependency, instability, and international isolation, with outcome hanging on the transition management. It is on this note that we will be bringing to an end today. We've drawn the curtain on the program for today, Pinpoint. Based on this, we will be drawing the curtain today, and my special thanks goes to the general manager of this great radio station, in person of Engineer Paul Olotu, the head of programs, Elijah Olurotini. I'm a able head of news, in person of I'm able head of news and current affairs, in person of Alaba Adeyemi, head of marketing, and also every other IT members in the studio with me that have helped me greatly in making sure that the program for today is a success. I want to say a very big thank you to every one of you. And of course, to you, my listeners out there, you are the most special guest of the program for today. Thanks for listening. Like we rightly said, we'll be expecting your feedbacks, comments, and views and opinions on our social media handle, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X handle on iPower 1027 FM. Or you can call us again on the studio line if you have any question or opinion regarding the topic we discussed today, or probably every other topic that has been discussed previously on 081 65 52 4699 or 081 32 74 7339. It's a good time being with you today on the program. So join me again back next week. It's a pleasure being with me today for the program. I remain your humble host. I am Akin Adebayo. Thanks for being there. See you again next week. Bye-bye. Enjoy the rest of the day.